In any profession, there is always the chance that you'll have to interact with someone you know, whether you're serving coffee at Starbucks or changing a tire at Firestone. It is no different in the emergency services profession. But when this happens, how do you react to it? And what are some steps that you can take? This is Lifeline. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Lifeline 911 Podcast with your host, Erica.
Hello.
I'm your co-host Gary, and today we are going to be discussing about what to do when you receive a call from someone you know. It's not a completely uncommon occurrence, though it is somewhat rare, I would say,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially especially in a city the size of Austin where we live. There's,
Yeah.
sometimes 2 million people in the county, so uh getting a call or working a call that has someone you know in it is not too common, but it does happen from time to time. So, what are
Yeah.
some things that you need to be aware of when that kind of happens?
As easy as it may be to say, it's any other call, mechanically speaking.
Hmm.
Meaning the steps are the same, the expectation is the same. Your job really does not change at its core. But again, easy to say. Maybe depending on the circumstances, not so easy to do.
Right. Yeah, because you're going to have sort of that added element of knowing the person, which
Mhm.
you. I mean, it may make you have a little bit of Schadenfreude if it's somebody you don't like, but let's say that it's somebody you care about. How do you
Yeah.
kind of uh, work through those emotions? Because really, when that happens, having sympathy is going to be much harder
Mm.
because it's going to be more of an empathy where you're actually feeling it. Because if
Yeah.
your loved one calls in and says, "I've just been in a terrible car accident," or someone just robbed me, that's going to be a lot harder to kind of work through in a professional manner.
Yeah. And I would think that that would be the biggest challenge is remaining detached. Uh, it- and I hesitate because detached is not really a word we like to use,
Hmm.
but it still is necessary because if we're honest, aren't we somewhat detached from the calls that we take, even though we, as human beings, we feel a way about what we're hearing. We feel sympathy, we feel empathy, we can't imagine, and we go into protect and serve mode
Hmm.
whenever we're hearing things happening to people where we reassure them all the things. But when it's a loved one or a family friend or a childhood friend, best friend, anything, any of those, easier said than done. I'm probably going to sound like a broken record, but
Hmm.
I think what sets, I'm struggling with it because I don't want to say it the wrong way, but I think what would set us apart in a way is the training,
Hmm.
because the training will kick in. I believe that wholeheartedly. I have a story. It's not a horrific story. It's not, no life threatening thing, but it's an ethical story because I ended up having to deal with a call that involved my own mom. Now, she was not hurt. She was in a crash, but I was faced with an ethical question. Do I treat this call differently than I would any other call of the same priority involving people that I did not know? And it was a challenge to remain ethical. And I emphasized that challenge because I was tempted in a way that I have yet to be tempted since,
Hmm.
to behave in a way that is in line with what is expected of us. I had the opportunity to dispatch her call ahead of others. It took everything I had not to. And
Hmm.
And if I'm being really, really honest, I think the only reason it was, I think the only reason it ended up being that I did what I knew I should do was because she was not hurt,
Mhm. No, yeah, I think
right?
yeah. I think that's a great point 'cause, I believe it was Aristotle who would, talk about the, uh, sort of the orders of, loyalty and, love that you'd have for other things, other people. So you've
Mhm.
got, like, at the heart of it all, you've got, like, loyalty to, like, your kids, your family, your parents, and then beyond that to your community, to your, nation, and then, human beings in general. Um,
Right.
and so it is hard because it's not a simple ethical question of whether, like,
Mhm.
do I, take $100 from this guy and, run a license plate for him and give him that information? That's an easy kind of black and white, like, no, you
Yes.
shouldn't do that. But this you've actually
It's
got
not that $100 isn't worth my income
yeah.
moving forward.
Eh, say it was $1,000,000, whatever. Like the terms of the ethicalness of the question are still easy to answer. Like it's the wrong thing to
Yes.
do, no matter what the amount of money is. Whether it's the correct choice to make for you, there's maybe some discussion could be had on that. But
Right.
when you've got like the two goods of like, the good of like being uh you know you know dispassionate in my work versus taking care of my family, those
Mhm.
are it's harder to kind of figure that out. So I think that's not an easy yes or no answer on either of that. So
Mm-mm.
if like you had um decided to dispatch that call sooner, it would be tough to say that was the wrong thing to do, even though it may you, theoretically, it could have, gotten you in trouble or something like that. But I would still have a hard time, especially if she was like injured or something and you had limited
Sure.
resources. Like I would have a hard time of figuring out the correct moral choice to do on that, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. And my the daughter in me was like, it's been 2 hours. And for the backstory, I was dispatching and it was a rainy day. I know, right? Drama. It was a rainy day and it was ugly out. And this crash is sitting in my queue. And I still to this day don't know what caused me to be drawn to this call. I can't tell you it was, I recognized the license plate because I didn't. I can't tell you my mom's name was in the call because it wasn't. I looked at the call, I opened the call and I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's something about this call.
Hmm.
I don't see anything that jumps out at me and I close it and I go on because it's not priority enough for me to dispatch it right then with the resources that I had and the priority that it was and the nature of the call that it was and the injuries or the lack of the injuries. Nothing lined up for me to be able to say, okay, let's go.
Hmm.
So I go on about my business and I'm drawn to this call again. I open it up and I'm looking, I'm like, what is bugging me about this call? I don't know why it's bugging me. Now, it was close to where she lived, but not that close. So maybe like 3 miles. So it wasn't like down the street and around the corner where I could go, oh, that looks like my mom's car. It was a similar car to hers
Hmm.
in retrospect. I think it was something, I still don't know what it was. But anyway, I I was drawn to it. By the time I realized, oh snap, this is it's familiar because of the description of the woman. And then it's been 2 hours and it's raining and I still don't have anybody. Oh snap, let me run this 28. It's my mom. And of course, we don't have cell phones yet. Or well, I take that back. The people that had cell phones had the big bricks.
Yeah.
You can clubber them over their head and they may never get up.
Hmm.
Those
Hmm.
that were actually in bags that you had to carry them around with you,
No
kind of
text
thing. There wasn't
messages.
no
Yeah.
stick in this bed. Yeah. And so there was no calling her to say, hey, I'm going to do the best I can. Was I tempted to say to the guys, I could have easily sent them a message and been like, look, that call over there, that's my mom. Would they have granted me a professional courtesy? deviated, probably not from a life and death emergency, of course, but someone who had been waiting even longer, same
Mhm,
priority, closer. Would they have done it if I'd asked? Sure, they would have.
mhm.
They
Yeah,
absolutely would have. They would
yeah,
have done that because I can put myself in a patrol car and think that if my dispatcher said, "Hey, that's my dad over there," I'd be like, "Shoot, let's go. Go
right.
scoop dad up, take care of dad, then go back." Is that wrong?
Yeah, it's tough.
Ah,
It's tough to say because, like, you know, you've got, filial piety, as they, used to call in Greece,
mhm,
where it's like, you've got, respect and love for your parents. So,
sure.
and you owe them a duty. So, like, it's tough. Like, I mean, on the surface, it seems like it's a pretty easy answer, especially since thankfully your mom was not hurt in this. It was just sort of
Mhm.
an annoyance rather than like a critical need, I suppose. Because
But that's my mom. She
exactly.
shouldn't have to sit there and it's raining and it's cold and she's already been sitting there for 2 hours and this crash and there's no reason for it and I can do something about it.
Hmm.
And here's the kicker. Anybody that could have a complaint about it may never know.
Right. Yeah. And even if they did have a complaint about it, I'm again, I'm not quite sure what the correct thing to do on that would be. Because, like, if you had two calls, like they were equal calls and both needed the same resources, and one person and you don't know the other person, I don't know. Like, it would almost seem wrong in a way not to, to help your family, especially your mom.
Not to help when you can,
Yeah.
right? You because what do we always say? If I can, I will.
Mhm.
And I don't know Joe,
Yeah. And I mean,
but
like,
this one I don't know, birthed me into the world and cooked me for 9 months and all the thing. I mean,
mhm, yeah, and, like, to those of you listening to this that, may think that it's an easy answer, I'd ask you to kind of take a moment to reflect on that and really put yourself in those shoes. Because I mean, in many other professions, like if you're working at Starbucks and you let your mom cut in line so to get her coffee sooner, or what was the other one I used? Well, if you work at Firestone and you get your mom's car
mhm,
out quicker, um, it's not quite the same thing as when you're working in public safety. So,
yeah.
but then on the other hand,
When
like,
ethics is everything.
yeah, yeah, and I'm not sure that that's the wrong answer, you know, um, given all things being equal. Like, now, if like your mom's like, I got a noise complaint, and you pull somebody off from like a shooting that's happening, that's an easier answer. But
Yeah.
like, if
And and here's the other thing. Even as let's just put on our supervisor hats, right? We find out that dispatcher so and so did the very thing that I ultimately did not do. But let me make sure that I am not painting myself as this gleaming halo hanging over the top of my head and these angel wings. Trust, I wanted to, was almost about to. I mean, that's been a very long time ago, many, many, many years, more than 15, closer to 20, probably. But if I heard that same scenario, I can't honestly say as a supervisor that I would ding my colleague, my employee for that. I'd be like, I get it. I think that that's what I would say.
mhm,
I really do think that that's what I'd say. I get it.
yeah, yeah, and I don't think that would be wrong. I don't think there is an easy black and white answer to that. Of you know when a call comes in and somebody because just
Hmm.
naturally as a human being, you're going to have a response to that. And
Yeah.
if, again, like, we're not talking about the easy situations where it's like pulling somebody off of a stabbing to go help, with like a parking violation. We're talking, you know,
Hmm.
two things being relatively equal, and you have only resources to send to one. What do you do? Uh, because I mean, how many times have we had a call from like, "Hey, you know, such and such at City Hall needs a ride, pull a patrol car off and take them down there." And like,
Hmm.
I feel personally really icky when that happens.
Yes.
And but I don't know. I don't know.
I
It's
know.
yeah,
It's a sticky widget, isn't it?
it is.
Because I'm sure other agencies do the same, but we take um ethics courses, right? We're challenged with our ethics and treating members of the public or the calling public the same with no regard to who they are or who they know. But again, here goes the broken record. Easier said than done.
Mhm.
It just is. So now we went from talking about what if it were someone that you know to it being an ethical question. How do you manage your emotions? How do you manage, well, your SOPs, your general orders, your best practices, the things, your expectations of your agency over the very human part of you that is also a first responder, but is also a parent, is also a child of someone who's you're somebody.
Right. I mean, we can even move it out of, an ethical realm. Say you're working, taking 911 calls, and you get a call in that there's been a bad crash, and the person on the phone is somebody you know, and they're hurt. Like, how do
Mhm,
you kind of manage that? Because, we were kind of talking before the show and saying it's really not timely to try and move that call to somebody else because it'll waste needless time. You so
mhm.
being like, hey, I got a call from somebody I know. Can you take it? While that is technologically possible, it's also uh, it's going to slow the process down of getting them help, which ultimately is our goal. So
Is our goal.
yeah, so as you were kind of saying, you got to put on that uh, professionalism hat, that 911 hat, and just really just crank that band down on your head because that hat, you don't want that hat to blow off in these emotional winds that are coming at you, and just
No
really,
kidding.
really focus on the call and getting all that information, and getting through it, mastering your emotions in because you're going to be in crisis as well, basically at that point,
Yes. Yeah.
even more so than you are like because like for me, I know like my weaknesses are like calls with kids and calls with old people. Those calls are always
Hmm.
tough for me, but I know that if like, my brother called in and he was like hurt, that would be way, way harder. Um, you know,
Hmm.
heaven forbid, knock on wood. Uh, so it's, um, yeah, you just really got to like say, okay, this is gonna, what embrace the suck. I know this is really gonna be some emotions that I got to work through. I'm going to force those away right now so I can finish this
I
call.
love it.
I can finish this call and get the help out where it needs to be. And then after that, I'm going to go process this however I can, but I have to focus and get through this no matter what.
Yeah. And that is where your training should not fail you in that time, right? Because and that's I think we were talking in the very last episode about how the repetition of what we do and the desensitizing that we do in the beginning is to prepare you for when that bucket of cold water is dumped on top of you by way of a call or a set of circumstances. You have that momentary, oh, beep, and then you move forward. But I have fortunately never had to take that type of a call from a loved one or someone that means something to me. We have people in our agency who have had to take calls like that, and they've had to take calls from each other like that, and they have risen to the occasion, which is amazing. And when you talk to them down the line, they go, after I got over the fact that it was so and so, I just did it.
Hmm.
Isn't that what we do? Isn't that what we do?
Yeah. Yeah. 100 times a day, every day of the year. Because we were also kind of like talking about like an equivalency. So like say like someone was a doctor that worked in the ER, and like a patient was brought in that was like their kid or something, or their husband or wife. Um, like if you're if there's another ER doctor, they'll probably say, I can't work on this patient. But if like you're the only ER, like say it's a small town and you're the only ER doctor there, are you not going to work on that patient because you know them? No, you're going
No,
to
you do it.
yeah, you're going to have to figure out a way to do it. And, it's going to suck, but that is thankfully, I think, a very rare circumstance in
Hmm.
our profession, where you have to really, really lean on that because it's going to cut right through any armor that you've developed around your emotions.
Oh, absolutely. Well said. That is absolutely true. I was watching one of my, because I'm a rerun person. I love to watch reruns. I don't have an answer for why it is what it is. I can watch a whole series multiple times to the point where I absolutely can recite the lines. So, all of that to say, I'm watching Lone Star 911 a couple
Oh
of nights
no.
ago. And yeah, love it. Absolutely love it. It's one of my guilty pleasures. Is it real? No. I know this. Is it realistic? They have their moments. They have their moments. And in one of these cases, I didn't know we were going to have this particular episode at all. I didn't know we were going here. But Grace, the star of the show, and as far as the 911 operator, her dad has a heart attack. It was a heart attack. Yes. Her mom is at home with the dad, and she calls 911. Guess who gets the call?
Grace?
Grace.
Oh,
Grace
got it.
gets the call. Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Oh. Yeah, I think the episode. I think it's gone now. Anyway,
Yeah.
you know where I'm going with this. There's no spoil here.
Yeah.
So she literally switches from 911 professional to mommy. Is that you? And of course, mommy's in a complete and utter. She's at the moon
Mm-hmm.
in her panic, and Grace has to try to bring her back down. But the thing that is not supposed to happen, or like we would like to think would never happen, is Grace starts rising to mom's level of panic.
Mm-hmm.
And she's well, not slowly, she's quickly losing control of the situation. She's remembering her training, but her emotions are overtaking the training
Mm-hmm.
because it is her mom on the phone and it's her dad and all the medical things that she knows is wrong with him. And the supervisor is within earshot, and she literally yells her name and snaps her out of it. And Grace is like, "What? Like, what do you want? Why are you bothering me?" He
Mm-hmm.
says, "You know you can't take that call," which is too funny to me because I'm thinking, would we do that, Gary? Would we run over there and go, "You know you can't take that call.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the phone." That's pretty much what she does.
Yeah.
I'm taking over this call.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if I were like in earshot and I heard someone say, mommy on the phone or something like that, and saw that they were emotionally distraught, um,
Hmm.
I would probably say, you're relieved, give me the call, and like, put the headset
Yeah,
on because,
and just ride with it.
yeah, and like just tell them like, hey, take a minute, we'll get together later, but I'm going to finish this call up. You're not taking any more calls right now, um,
Yeah.
because that's um too much to ask of anyone, and to I don't think you'd want to have people that wouldn't be so affected by that it wouldn't make them not be able to do their job. Like you wouldn't want them that dead inside. And I'm a big fan of being dead inside, but that's even for me too much. Too much.
A bridge too far.
Yeah,
A bridge
exactly.
too far. Well, okay, so we're talking about taking calls, but I feel like we've talked about this a little bit in um it might have been the episode with the wife of a cop, or
Mhm.
maybe it was one of the others. And the same thing can happen on a radio.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like
Your police officer, loved one, is in the foot pursuit or in the car chase or in the bad crash that happens, or you get the call where, some citizen is calling in saying that this officer is lying in the middle of the street and that's your spouse.
Mhm.
Do you get up from the radio
Yeah,
or do
that's
you
all.
keep working?
Yeah, that's always a really tough one because you do have people that have uh, more than professional relationships with people that they work with sometimes, uh,
For
and
those of you on Spotify and iHeart and all of those, you should have seen my face just then.
so
That was awesome. I love the way you put that. I'm gonna have to try to remember that.
so what do you do at that point? Because as we said in that episode that you're talking about, we'll when we find out that somebody has a relationship like that with like a dispatcher with somebody that's in the field, we'll sit down with them and have the talk. It's like, what are you going to do when this happens? Um, and
And what do they say, Gary?
it's almost to a man. They'll say, "I'll be fine. I've thought about it. It'll be okay. It's not a problem." And
I got it, and nobody can take care of them like I can take care of them.
right, and uh, that won't be the case when you're like
Mm-mm.
sobbing uncontrollably. Not which won't always happen, but like I don't think a lot of times people take into account the amount of devastation of trauma that hearing something like that is going to give out to you.
Well, and when it comes to the traumatic things that we endure and we hear, it's bad enough, and it's not people we know. Now add that to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the event itself is still going to be bad. It's going to be whatever it is that's already bad, and it would be bad no matter who it was happening to. Now add the extra layer. Now you're emotionally invested, and you may even be blood related,
Mhm.
or even closer, which is marriage,
Yeah.
or some significant other, or that type of relationship, and you still believe that you can maintain. Now, odds are you probably will on some level, but eventually that fight or flight, and that's really what it'll be, because it'll be all of those chemicals that dump, they will kick in,
Mhm.
and you won't hear as keenly as you would like to believe. Your ability to zero in on detail won't be as intense as you would like to think. Now what do we do?
Yeah. I mean, at that point, just like with the call taker, like the dispatcher's got to come off the radio because not only are they putting the life of the person that they're emotionally invested in, but they're putting
Mhm.
in jeopardy the lives of all the other officers or firefighters or medical personnel that are on that channel because they're not going to
And the
be.
citizens too that now need for them to be present and in the moment, and able to conduct their business with
Mhm.
clarity. You can't.
Yeah.
I
And
personally wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want that. Glad my husband's a tech nerd. Love you, babe.
but yeah, like it's and sometimes you won't even be cognizant of it because you're in it
Hmm.
immediately. Boom,
Sure.
I'm in the call now. Um, so that's why it's important for your coworkers, your fellow dispatchers, your supervisors to be aware of that and be like, oh, uh, you know, uh, Fred's not doing too well right now, and like, oh yeah, get him out of here. He's done for right
Yeah.
now. He can't work that radio anymore. Um, and when I say anymore, he may never be able to work that radio again. He may not
Yeah.
be part of the profession anymore, depending
Yeah.
on what happens. And I
And
mean,
what about so you're saying the supervisor, or having people know so that they can keep an eye. What about, and is there a is there a ethical responsibility on the part of that person to say, hey, I may not be able to, or I'm compromised in some way. And I know we started off talking about call takers and taking the call, and that's just where we began. But now we're on the other side, the other discipline.
mhm.
is there a responsibility for them to say, "Oh, I recognize this might be a bridge too far. This might be too much."
Yeah.
Should they?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, just in the same way that you're expected to keep yourself physically and mentally capable of doing a job. So, you know, don't show up to work drunk. You know, don't show up to work not having slept. Don't show up to work sick. Um, you're being cognizant of your emotions is also important. I don't think it's quite the same though, because I don't think you'll even realize you're not in control. Because most of the
That's
time,
true.
most of the time when you're not in control, you don't realize that. You know, it's just you wake up the
That's
next
true.
day in a ditch, you know, half naked, covered in blood. You're like, what happened? I hear that hasn't happened to me, but
Oh,
you know,
okay.
so you,
Wow.
yeah. So
Wow.
you don't even realize you're way off base. Um,
Yeah.
so that's why it's important to understand that we're all part of a team and working together. And somebody that sees you having this issue, like having real uh trauma or real emotional
Mhm.
breakdown, needs to be like, this person needs help, somebody get out here, relieve them.
You stand up and yell, scream, wave
Yeah.
your arms, jump up and down like a crazy person, all the things. And I guess, and I'm glad you said it that way because this is right now what we're talking about for us anyway is hypothetical, right? My story at the top of the show is miles away from where we are right now in having this conversation. Mine was skipping through the tulips by comparison to what some people have had to go through. And I know this may sound really twisted right now, but I really would love to hear from someone who has walked through that. Do you know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
all we can do is speculate as what we think it would be and how we think it would play out. But and I would not want to hear their story so I can just be like, "Oh my god." No, I've not had that happen. I don't know anyone that's happened to that I can reach out and touch, call a name, but OMG, I can't even imagine.
Right. And yes, if we knew somebody, we would have absolutely had them on this episode, because, like, I think just as when we interviewed Tommy, like, the wife of a cop, how do you do that? Like,
Mhm.
how do you get through this? Another thing to consider is, what if you're in a small agency and you're the only dispatcher on duty? What happens then? What if you're the only person on duty in the entire communications center? Like, there are agencies where there's one person that, runs the phone, runs the radio, runs the teletype
Yeah,
machine. Like, what do you do
yeah.
then?
I can't even I can't even wrap my head around what that would be.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, you just have to say, I need a patrolman to come in and relieve me, because I cannot do this right now. I don't know.
Yeah,
Um, that would be really tough, especially like if you're from a small agency, you probably know all of the cops, everybody in the whole department, because you're like,
yeah,
the eight of us go out and have barbecue or something once a month,
sure.
so.
Or in a small community, the odds are, like small town, taking absolutely nothing away from their professionalism and the service that they do, nothing at all. But this is one of the advantages of being in a large agency in a large city with surrounding counties and towns like us. The odds of it happening that way are small by comparison. But what if you know just about everybody in the town
Hmm.
in one way or another? Now, whether you're related to them, no, but you know them. You see them at the grocery store, you see them at the post office, you see them just around town because the town has got less than 5,000 people in it. Now, you probably don't know all of them. There's a good chance you know a good amount of them,
Hmm.
and you're the only one on duty or you know them so well. How do you process that?
Right. It's very interesting, kind of where this conversation is moved to, because, like, I don't think this was what we either of us had kind of planned to talk about, but how do you get through that? Because that's almost impossible, I would imagine. I mean, because you can say, rely on your training, push it aside, push the feelings aside, but you know, when the
Yeah,
rubber
okay.
meets the road, um,
Yeah.
how is that going to work? That's
And I
something.
think
Yeah.
but I think that that's what speaks to our the spirit of our profession, because someone who's put in that position has no choice.
Hmm.
Yes, they may have to call somebody and say, I got to get out of here because X, Y, and Z just happened. They, they can't just run out.
Yeah.
They can't just leave. They have to stay until they are relieved while whatever that is it's going on. And can you imagine? I can't. And you're right. This is not where the conversation was supposed to go. This was not the episode that we prepped for when you said, okay, we're recording. But I also believe that this is authentic. This is a real conversation because this has happened to somebody somewhere,
Hmm. Yeah.
and it will again.
Yeah. So, as Erica said, if this is you that it happened to, we would love to kind of hear that and maybe share that story because I think, especially in our profession, that's one of the big things that people think about is like what happens when I've got to deal with that situation that comes up that you can't plan for, you can't train for, you can't really prepare for.
No,
You just have to,
no.
you know, when it happens, you'll either rise to it or you won't. And
Yep.
how can you give yourself the best chance to be able to meet that occasion?
Agreed. Yeah. We'll have to do that other episode another day.
Yeah. Well, I guess on that depressing note, we'll go to the mailbag now.
Ding ding, mailbag's here. It's the sound we love to hear. Quick and bright, the vibe is clear. Let's read your words with a cheer.
Um, so
Let's
yes,
see.
if you have any questions or comments you'd like, please feel free to send them in to our email address at lifeline911podcast at gmail.com, or you can leave a comment down below. And while you're at that, leave us a like if you would too. Our first
And subscribe.
and subscribe. Yes, thank you. Oh, I missed it. Okay. I'll
That's
get
why I
it.
got you. I got you. I got you.
All right. Our first comment comes from Silent Key Press. Are there any
Uh-huh.
situations where dispatch might not send help right away, even if someone sounds scared? How does prioritization work under high call volume?
It works the same as it does under low call volume. And I know that may sound like a flip response, but it's the truth. Based on what's being told to us, that's how we categorize the calls based on what's being said. Um, the truth is, when people call, what is an emergency to them may not necessarily be an emergency to us, which is why we have criteria. And anybody that is in the profession will all be bobbing their heads up and down right now because it doesn't matter whether it be fire or EMS or police. We have protocols that tell us this call fits this protocol. This call fits in this box or this circle or whatever. And regardless, I know it sounds awful, but it's true. Regardless of how emergent it may seem to the caller, it doesn't always match up. And that's how prioritization works. And it must be that way, or else we would have utter chaos. We would have um, personal opinion and emotions ruling the way that we respond to public calls. And we can't have that. We have to have order.
Hmm. Yeah, in regard to the first part of your question, where dispatch.
Sorry, did I miss it?
Oh,
My
no,
bad.
you're good. Where dispatch might not send help right away, even if someone sounds scared. We do have those calls frequently, where someone may be locked in their closet and they're like, "I hear someone outside." Um, those are usually calls that are treated as very high priority. So if there is any unit available in the city, the closest one is going to be dispatched onto that. The only other time I can think where there might be a delay with that would be, say, if you had a like a flooding situation, People might be like, I'm really
Hmm.
scared of my house, the water's rising, and you might have, 5,000 people that are all in that particular uh,
Same. Yeah.
boat, I guess would be the
Yeah.
aphorism to use. Um,
Pardon the pun. Hmm.
yeah. So when that happens, like there's obviously not enough resources to go around. So you try to walk the person through that situation as best you can. So like go to get to higher ground if you can. Make sure that you've got all check on elderly and kids and pets to make sure that they're safe too. Usually the pets will leave on their own. They're pretty smart. It's the people
Yep.
that you got to worry about. Um,
Ain't that the truth?
so, like, even if we can't get help immediately there, we try and give some mitigating information. And today, there's programs that are like reverse 911, sending out text
Mhm.
messages saying, "Hey, there's like a natural disaster here. This is what you need to do." Um, to try and help alleviate some of that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're right.
Uh,
We make a good team.
Siren Song Texas asks, "What's the biggest mistake a dispatcher can make during the first minute of a call, and how do they guard against it?"
Not getting the address, in my opinion, is the biggest. And how do you guard against it? You don't not get the address. There is no guarding against it. It is the first rule of thumb. It is the first question we ask. Where? Because without where, none of the other questions matter.
Hmm. Yeah.
That might be a little harsh, but I mean, maybe you'll probably clean that up a little bit. But yeah, don't guard against it. Just don't not ask it.
Hmm. In terms of like the dispatcher, if you're asking about the person that's sending
Oh,
out the call, well, no, I don't know if it was for call taker or dispatcher, right?
yeah, that was my thing. I took it as call taking. My bad.
But like for the dispatch side, make sure you see the call. Like, uh, I'm channeling Ted here. Don't be complacent. Don't have that complacency kind of rock your world. Focus on what the task is at hand. You know.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh,
Okay, yeah, I totally heard that as 911, the call coming in. I did not hear it as dispatching it out.
well, do you have any different for dispatch?
What's the worst thing? Read it
Uh,
again from a dispatch.
what's the biggest mistake a dispatcher can make during the first minute of a call, and how do they guard against it?
If I'm putting the call out, not giving all of the information and not giving updates. Because as the call is coming in, and it's just hit your queue and you're dispatching it out, that there's like a couple of three things that are all equal, I would say, but definitely everybody's got to have backup if that's your protocol. If there's no protocol for that, then I'm a little afraid for you. But if that's the case, and it is what it is, that everybody gets backup and everybody gets all of the pertinent information in the call, all of it, not the part you think is pertinent, all of the information. Not necessarily line by line, because hopefully the call taker has been able to do what they do best, which is condense. But you have, or you should have been taught, and you should be actively practicing prioritizing the information as it comes out. If there is some fluff information in the call, that does not go out before the guns, knives, sticks, bats, mace, machetes, AK-47s, you know,
What
those
what have you?
things,
Well,
and suspect descriptions, all that kind of stuff. Sorry.
no, no, you're good. Um, One of the reasons we kind of did this episode was because Erica, as you all may know, works for a company called American Emergency Preparedness. And this is one of the classes that she teaches a topic on, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. What if it was your family? And that is literally the title of the course in americanemergencypreparedness.com or ameriprep.com. But I think it comes up easiest if you type it all out. But what if it were your family is one of those courses where we're talking to each discipline, the call takers, the dispatcher. There's whether you be EMT, whether you be fire, doesn't matter which one of those three you work for. This Our profession doesn't change depending on who's on the other end of the phone. But I think preparing for the possibility that you might end up having to talk to someone or respond to a call involving a loved one that is not non-emergent. See, the non-emergents are easy. It's those other ones. And so we talk about that possibility. We talk about the basics and the fundamentals that do not change with our job, regardless of who it is we're responding to. And it is a 8-hour workshop that we're very proud of. And it is available for you to take either at your agency, we will come out to your agency, or you can host, even if you don't have enough in your agency to fill up 15 people. You can host it and then reach out to your surrounding agencies and see if they would like to send some people. So it is AmericanEmergencyPreparedness.com, and all of the information is there for you to either host the class or have us come in and teach it. And if you see something on there, or excuse me, don't see something there that would meet your needs, reach out still, and we will be happy to build something for you.
And just as one last little note, Erica, I believe, is the only teacher I've ever heard of that will do an overnight course. So if you're
I
a
absolutely will.
if you're a PSAP manager, supervisor, or employee, at Emergency Telecommunications, and you want live training overnight, this lady right here is the only person in the entire world that I know of that would do that for you. So
I ain't scared. I will come and teach. I absolutely will. You got a night shift somewhere, and because night shift, I'm talking to you, my night shift peeps. You know how it is for us. We got problems and situations. Nobody teaches anything past 5 o'clock. What's up with that? I ain't scared. I'll do it. Call me up.
yes, and we appreciate you all not being scared and coming with us on today's journey. It went round and round a different windy river, so that was a very interesting
Well,
conversation.
hey, well, it'd be that way sometimes.
If you have any thoughts or comments on today's topic, please shoot us an email to lifeline911podcast@gmail.com, or leave a comment down below, and make sure you subscribe while you're doing that. From all of us here at Lifeline 911, I'm Gary,
I'm Erica.
and we will see you next week.
Thank you for watching our production of Lifeline 911. If you have any questions about today's topic or topics you'd like us to cover in the future, please reach out to us at lifeline911podcast@gmail.com. This has been a production of Lifeline 911 Podcast, copyright 2025. From all of us at Lifeline, stay safe out there. And until next time, this is Lifeline 911 signing off.